He thought he'd moved on, until he saw her. Nathan Sterling wasn't a man easily shaken. At 43, the billionaire real estate mogul had built a life of flawless control, five-star dinners, designer suits, and a calendar filled with mergers, not memories. But the moment he saw her balancing a tray, with quiet grace and a round belly she didn't try to hide, the world beneath his Italian loafers shifted. Maya, his ex-wife, 7 months pregnant, and judging by the math that baby might be his, he froze in the middle of La Maison, the most exclusive restaurant in the city. Crystal chandeliers sparkled above him, but all he could see was her. The woman he once promised forever to, now wearing a waitress uniform and walking past him like a stranger. And yet her eyes, when they finally met his, told a story even money couldn't silence. Before Maya appeared like a ghost from a life he'd locked away, Nathan Sterling had believed he was finally living the dream. His name graced half the skyline. His suits were tailored in Milan. And the woman on his arm, Victoria Langford, was everything his world adored, polished, brilliant, ruthless in heels. As CEO of her own public relations empire, she fit seamlessly into his lifestyle of boardrooms, black tie galas, and exclusive retreats. They dined at La Maison twice a week. The maitre d' knew his favorite vintage Bordeaux. Even the waitstaff moved with a practiced precision. Nathan appreciated no surprises, no emotion, no clutter from the past. Victoria arrived 15 minutes fashionably late that night, wrapped in a red designer dress that turned heads as planned. She greeted him with an air kiss, her perfume calculated to linger. "Sorry I'm late, darling," she purred. "The board meeting ran long. You know how it is." He knew, and that was why it worked. With Victoria there were no messy emotions, no long silences filled with unsaid pain, no arguments about balance or sacrifice. Unlike Maya, who once accused him of building a life that had no room for hearts, Nathan had ignored that accusation. Back then he believed love was a distraction. He believed Maya held him back. But now across the room stood the very woman he'd discarded, carrying a child that might be his. And suddenly the flawless world he'd built felt paper thin. While Nathan sealed deals over champagne, Maya counted coins behind the kitchen doors. 7 months ago she'd taken a pregnancy test alone in a cramped apartment bathroom. The lines were faint, but the truth was not. She was carrying his child. The man who had stopped answering her calls, who had left with a suitcase full of suits and never looked back. She'd emailed him 12 times, called, left voicemails that began steady but cracked near the end. The final message had no words at all, just quiet breathing and a heart that didn't know how to stop loving someone who had moved on so easily. Then came the morning sickness. It hit hard and didn't stop. Maya, once a rising star in advertising, missed too many days and was let go. No hard feelings, they'd said. Just business. But business didn't pay rent. Business didn't hold her hair back as she vomited. Business didn't care that she was pregnant and alone, so she found the only job she could get. Waiting tables at La Maison, the very place Nathan took his investors and his women. The irony bit deep, but she smiled anyway. She carried trays heavier than her body could handle, endured whispers from guests who assumed she'd made poor life choices. No one saw the strength it took to walk upright with swollen feet and a silent heart. But Maya wasn't the crying kind, not in public, not where Nathan could see. So when their eyes finally met that night, his shock, her exhaustion, they both knew something had shifted. But only one of them had lived the pain of those missing months. The tray wobbled as Maya crossed the marble floor, her steps slower, now more deliberate. She hadn't eaten since dawn, and the weight of the evening crowd was pressing against her lower back like a fist. Her doctor had warned her rest more, lift less. But rest didn't pay for prenatal vitamins. And no one tipped a hostess with a baby bump. Nathan's eyes had followed her for nearly 20 minutes. Victoria kept talking, her perfect voice weaving strategies and shareholder updates, but Nathan heard none of it. His eyes were glued to the past, the one carrying his future. And then it happened. Maya turned too fast to avoid a toddler running beneath her tray. Her body swayed. For a second, everything stopped: the tray, the room, Nathan's breath. But somehow Maya caught herself. She didn't fall. She didn't cry out. She just straightened her spine, adjusted her grip, and kept walking, like she'd been doing for months. But her face betrayed her. A flash of pain, of pride, of a woman carrying far more than just a child. Nathan stood suddenly, knocking over his chair. Victoria frowned. "What are you doing?" I need to go," he muttered, already walking toward the maitre d'. But Maya had disappeared through the kitchen doors before he could catch up. The clatter of plates swallowed her exit. He stared at the door. She vanished behind chest tight with something he hadn't felt in years. Guilt, regret, recognition. He had walked away from her. But she was the one who kept walking, carrying everything he left behind. Nathan couldn't sleep that night, not even in his king-size bed, wrapped in thousand-thread-count silence. Not with the image of Maya, pregnant, exhausted, disappearing through the kitchen doors etched behind his eyelids. He wandered through his modern mansion like a ghost. The house was everything Maya once called cold. Clean lines, stone floors, echoes in every corner. At 2 a.m., he found himself in his home office, bathed in the low glow of his laptop. And then, almost without thinking, he typed her name into his inbox. There it was. Important news about our future. Sent 7 months ago. Unopened. His chest tightened as he clicked. "Nathan, I know you don't want to hear from me. I understand that you've moved on. But this isn't about us anymore. I'm pregnant. The doctor confirmed it yesterday. It's yours. You know I've never been with anyone else. I'm not asking for money. I'm not asking for anything. I just thought you had the right to know. You're going to be a father." Maya. The words blurred. Not because the screen glitched, but because Nathan's vision did. He had ignored this, buried it beneath meetings, mergers, and someone who looked good on his arm. Maya had reached out, not to plead, not to beg, but to inform him, to honor the truth, even if it hurt. And he had silenced her. He pressed his fingers against his temple, trembling. For the first time in years, work couldn't save him, nor could wine, nor Victoria, nor status. He had turned his back on the one thing money couldn't replace: a child, and the woman who tried so bravely to give him the chance to show up. Nathan showed up at La Maison before lunch service began. No suit, no Rolex, just a man who hadn't slept, carrying guilt like a second skin. The maitre d' looked startled. "Mr. Sterling, you're early." "I'm not here for a table," Nathan said quietly. "I need to speak to your manager." Moments later, he was in a modest back office with Peterson, the restaurant's owner, a nervous man who'd built his business on discretion. "Maya Anderson," Nathan said, cutting to the point. "She's one of your servers." Peterson hesitated. "Yes, is there a problem?" "No," Nathan said. "She's carrying my child." Silence. Then Peterson blinked. "She never said." "She wouldn't." Nathan placed an envelope on the desk. "I want her off the floor. No more lifting trays. No more long hours on her feet. I'll cover her full salary plus tips." Peterson raised a brow. "She's proud. She'll know something's up. Then make it subtle. Say you need a VIP hostess, someone to greet regulars, someone with grace and calm. She has that. Just give her somewhere to sit, to breathe." Later that afternoon, Maya arrived for her shift. Nathan watched from the corner of the bar, heart in his throat, as Peterson called her into the office. Through the glass, he saw her confusion, her suspicion. Her eyes flicked toward the bar. Their eyes met again. And this time, she didn't look away. She marched straight to him, eyes blazing. "Did you do this?" He didn't flinch. "I'm trying to help." "I didn't ask for help." "I know, but I owe it to our child, and to the woman who never stopped caring what I refused to." 2 days later, Victoria arrived at La Maison, dressed to kill in a blood-red suit and heels that struck the marble like a gavel. She didn't bother asking for a table. She walked straight to the hostess stand where Maya now sat, calm and composed. "I know what you're doing," Victoria said, voice low but venomous. You show up here pregnant, vulnerable, waiting for Nathan to swoop in. It's clever. Maya didn't blink. Do you have a reservation? Victoria leaned in. Name your price. Maya's hands stayed folded. Excuse me. You heard me. Walk away. 2 million. I already have the check written. Walk away from what, my child? From your performance, Victoria hissed. The Damsel in Distress Act. It's costing Nathan everything, the Thompson deal, his board seat, his reputation. Maya felt her stomach tighten, not from fear, but from rising fire. You think I asked for any of this? I think you've played your hand well, but I'm ending the game. Before Maya could respond, a familiar voice cut through the room like thunder. Step away from her, Nathan. He strode across the restaurant, eyes locked on Victoria. What do you think you're doing? Victoria straightened. Fixing this. Like I always do. No. What you're doing is trying to buy your way out of irrelevance. Victoria turned icy. You're really throwing away everything for her? For a baby that might not even be yours. Nathan didn't flinch. That baby is mine. And he turned to Maya. Voice softening, is the only person in this room who's ever loved me for something other than power. Victoria laughed, once sharp and bitter. You're insane. No, he said calmly. I'm finally sane. He turned to the staff. Kindly show Miss Langford the door, and inform security she's no longer welcome here. Victoria's composure cracked. But Maya didn't move, didn't gloat. She just placed her hand gently over her stomach, a quiet act of victory. But peace wouldn't last long, because the next morning, Nathan's mother showed up, and Eleanor Sterling never knocked. Eleanor Sterling entered Nathan's home as if it still belonged to her. She didn't glance at the fresh flowers by the door or the faint scent of vanilla Maya had always preferred. Her eyes went straight to the pregnant woman sitting in the sunroom, one hand resting on her stomach, the other holding a worn copy of Goodnight Moon. So this is the woman causing the Sterling name such disgrace, Eleanor said, voice clipped. Nathan stepped forward. Mother, not now. But Maya stood slowly, carefully. Mrs. Sterling, you think this baby earns you a place in my son's life, in his legacy? Maya's voice stayed calm. I didn't come here for your approval. Eleanor gave a tight smile. Of course not. You came for a second chance. The timing was convenient, wasn't it? Nathan's fists clenched. That's enough. No, Nathan. What's enough is the damage she's done. You've lost the Thompson deal. The press is circling. And now you expect us to pretend she belongs. I'm carrying your grandchild, Maya said, eyes narrowing. Whether you accept her or not. Eleanor's face tightened. That's assuming this child is even... She never finished the sentence, because Maya suddenly wavered, her hand gripping the arm of the chair. Then she gasped. A sharp, guttural sound. Nathan was at her side in a heartbeat. Maya, I can't breathe, she whispered. It hurts. Nathan lowered her into the chair as her face twisted in pain. Mrs. Chen, call Dr. Chin now. Eleanor stepped back, stunned. Maya's breathing became shallow. Her hands shook. Stay with me, Nathan murmured, cradling her hand. We're going to the hospital. I told you, Maya whispered between contractions. Stress triggers it. Tears welled in Nathan's eyes. And in that moment, as sirens echoed in the distance, Eleanor finally understood. This wasn't scandal. This was a family. A fragile, breaking, beautiful one. The fluorescent lights of the emergency room were too bright, too sterile. But Nathan couldn't look away from Maya's face. She was pale. Her hair clung to her forehead. Her grip on his hand was the only thing keeping him from falling apart. Her blood pressure's spiking, Dr. Chen said urgently. Signs of preeclampsia. We need to deliver. Now. Nathan's heart slammed against his ribs. She's only 32 weeks. I know, Dr. Chen said, locking eyes with him. But if we wait, we risk losing both. Maya looked up at him, her voice a breath. If anything happens... No, Nathan whispered fiercely. Nothing's going to happen. I'm not leaving. I forgive you, she said suddenly. For the silence, for the running. I forgive you. Nathan swallowed, hard eyes burning. And I love you. I never stopped. I was just too late saying it. She managed a faint smile as the team wheeled her towards surgery. Then came the waiting. 3 hours. Each minute dragged like wet concrete. When Dr. Chen finally returned, Nathan couldn't breathe. "Your daughter is here," she said gently. "She's small but strong, breathing on her own. And Maya's stable. She's asking for you." He nearly collapsed from relief. In the NICU, Lily lay in a clear incubator no larger than his forearm. But when he touched her tiny hand, she curled her fingers around his like she'd known him forever. "Hi, sweetheart," he whispered. "I'm your dad, and I'm never leaving again." Later, as Maya drifted to sleep, he sat beside her holding her hand. Not as a billionaire, not as a man trying to fix what he broke, but as someone finally worthy of beginning again. The house felt different when Maya returned from the hospital. The marble floors hadn't changed, nor the tall windows or pristine art. But now there were tiny socks drying by the heater, warm blankets draped over couches, and the gentle ticking of the grandfather clock filling the silence. Rachel stayed in the guest house. She still watched Nathan carefully, like a sister guarding a wounded queen. But slowly her scowl softened. She saw the way Nathan learned to warm bottles, the way he memorized Lily's feeding schedule, the way he held Maya's hand every time the baby stirred. One evening while folding laundry, Rachel said quietly, "She smiles more now." Nathan looked up. "Maya," Rachel nodded. "And Lily too. But Maya, she hasn't smiled like that in a long time." That same week, Eleanor returned. This time she came without her signature heels or pearls. Just a small bag of hand-knitted baby hats and a hesitant knock. "I was wrong," she said, standing in Maya's living room, the grandfather clock chiming softly behind her. "About you, about what matters." Maya looked at her guarded. "I thought I was protecting the sterling name," Eleanor continued. "But all I did was fracture the family it stood for." She stepped forward. "If you'll let me, I'd like to help stitch it back together." And for the first time, Maya didn't flinch when Eleanor reached for Lily. Meanwhile, the board at Sterling Holdings called for a meeting. The Thompson deal had collapsed, and rumors were everywhere. Nathan walked in, looked every director in the eye, and said, "If choosing my family over your profits costs me this seat, take it. I'm building something better, at home." And he meant it, because this time he wasn't sacrificing love for legacy. He was redefining legacy altogether. Sunlight filtered through the nursery window, casting golden patterns across the pale yellow walls. Maya sat in the rocking chair, Lily curled against her chest, breathing softly. Nathan stood nearby, one hand on the edge of the crib he had assembled with trembling fingers, back when everything still felt fragile. Now it felt quiet, whole. From the living room, the familiar chime of the grandfather clock echoed through the halls, steady, timeless. Maya looked up. "You wound it." Nathan smiled. "Every night, just like before." She nodded, stroking Lily's tiny hand. "I used to hate that sound after the divorce. It reminded me of what we lost." "But now," he asked gently. "Now," she said softly, "it reminds me that time can heal things if we let it." Nathan crossed the room and knelt beside her. "I don't expect everything to be perfect overnight, but if you'll have me, I'll spend every tick of that clock proving I belong here." Maya looked down at Lily, who stirred and yawned, then back at Nathan. "You already are," she whispered, "and so is she." Outside, butterflies danced in the garden Rachel had helped plant. Eleanor's knitting basket sat by the couch, and somewhere in the kitchen Mrs. Chen hummed a lullaby as she prepared tea. This wasn't the empire Nathan Sterling once chased. It was better. It was his family. And as the grandfather clock chimed once more, the sound didn't mark power or control. It marked love. The kind you fight for. The kind you rebuild. The kind that stays. Don't forget to subscribe to Hidden Black Voices for more emotional and powerful Black stories that matter.